Series. So that'll show you how hard that is to do right there. It's never been done before. So.
Yeah, that's a good stat. Never
a good stat for Kansas
time.
City. It's a good stat for them anyway. Now, of course, that's only going back to 1985. But you know what? Last I checked, you know what else goes back to 1985? The last time the Royals went to the World Series. So you can't put these coincidences together on accident. I'm telling you.
That's true. One thing I wanted to mention to you, and that's a pet peeve of mine, I guess, and it might be a silly thing and a stupid thing. But I'm trying to remember how long ago it was. And I've got to believe that even 15 years ago, let's say, 1990, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, crowds at playoff games in baseball, what did we do before everybody had a little hanky to wave in the air? How did we appreciate baseball? How did we get, crowds involved in the game and into it without giving them a little towel to wave around in unison? I mean, to me, it's like doing the wave at a baseball game. I just don't like it. I just think it's just silly, and I just wanted to go on record and say that's dumb. I hate that because it's away from traditions. Even crowds 20 years ago, they'd look at the playoff baseball today and say, "What is that? Why is everybody waving a towel around?" I just don't get it. So anyway, like I said, maybe a dumb thing, pet peeve of mine. Traditionalist in me, the conservative in me coming out, but man, I hate that.
Well, they do the same thing. Like the NBA is really good at doing the deal where everybody wears the exact same shirt. So you've got like the whole building all matching. They're all wearing blue or they're all wearing white. And I've always noticed it, but when it caught me, the new NBA 2K game came out last week, and I was playing it a little bit over the weekend on the PlayStation 4, and they added that feature to this as well. So it looks ridiculous though because it just looks like
and it's okay
same...
at college football. I mean, I'm okay
the
you
white out.
Have
and
a white out at Penn State for a night. That's fine. I'm all right with that, but. This baseball thing, I guess baseball is a little bit more of a traditionalist kind of sport.
True.
And the purist, I don't consider myself a purist in that way, but just something about that bugs me. So, like I said, it's reminiscent of the wave. I get ticked off at Progressive Field when people start doing the wave. I'm like, hey, come on, there's a baseball game going on. Go to Ohio State on. They didn't even do the wave at Ohio State games, but that's a thing for college football or some other sport besides. Major League Baseball's got no place there.
I hear you on baseball. I do remember the Browns. I remember getting orange playoff towels during the playoff games. They had those like a terrible towel, but they were orange and they were sponsored by the station 3WE or something. And they'd be those
a playoff game. You must mean 2002.
No, I mean when I was growing up in the 80s. I'm talking about the
80s.
real Browns.
Okay.
What are you talking about, man?
I guess I don't remember that because I was at those games, and I remember, I guess maybe being handed one when I walked through and they've done them not for just playoff games. They've done them for regular season games where they've handed out towels.
Yeah.
Before the game, and I take it and stuff it in my pocket and forget it because I refuse to wave it. But anyway, just a thing. I just want to go on record as saying, I'm against that. I think that's dumb. But
totally.
Anyhow,
Totally
whatever
understand. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan. We're talking a little bit about the Browns and the Steelers here. Some baseball as teams continue to march towards that World Series. Hey, I brought up that Ohio State didn't play over the weekend. Brought this up earlier. I wanted to mention it with you here when the top 25 comes out. But they did find a way to lose. Not obviously a game, but they lost the previous record of being the fastest team ever to go from unranked to number one as Mississippi State. 5 weeks. And when this happened and the poll came out this morning, first mental note I made was Dan and I were just talking about something like this last week with bringing up how, was it last year, about the teams that weren't even in the top 25 ended up in the top 5 by the end of the season. And the top 5 right now is that same situation already. Matter of fact, I think you obviously Mississippi State wasn't even in it. I think the other teams, except for Florida State, you had teams that were preseason number 17 or number 20. Nobody had the top 5 being Mississippi State, Florida State, Ole Miss, Baylor, and Notre Dame. And but Mississippi State, it's funny, the record that they blew, it was Ohio State back in the 50s that did it in 6 weeks. They blew through, but that's the power that comes behind. Talk about Browns hitting a soft spot of the schedule. You roll through 3 top 10 teams, including a 2-3 battle with Auburn, and you win. That's how you end up number 1 with a quickness where Mississippi State is right now.
Yeah, you're right. And I've been singing the praises of the Bulldogs and Dak Prescott here on your show for the last couple of weeks. I saw him a few weeks ago, and I've been able to watch him 3 times now, and I'm just knocked out by Prescott. He didn't have a big statistical game Saturday, but boy, they played real well. And like we said, I think last year it was 3 out of 5. 3 of the AP final top 5 were not ranked not just at the start of the season, but the start of October. And just to show you how fast it can happen between, after you get your non-conference games out of the way and you start playing them for real in your conference. 3 of the 5 top teams last year in the final AP were not ranked as of the 1st of October. So a lot can change in a hurry, and boy, this year it's as crazy as ever in terms of all the big boys getting knocked off. And I'm sure that Baylor and Notre Dame were in the top 20 at the start of the year, but I don't think they were top 10.
They were like 17th and 18th or something like that.
Yeah. Ole Miss was ranked, but the Mississippi State certainly wasn't. And, of course, Florida State's been a mainstay there. And it's a little bit interesting, I think, to see them get leapfrogged by the Bulldogs because they've been sort of winning ugly, I guess you'd say. They haven't really put an impressive win together. I think they played Clemson tough, and that was a tough game for them. But since that time, Florida State has not looked great. And by the way, I don't know if you read the piece, and maybe we can wait and talk about it Wednesday, but about how there some pretty ugly charges being documented now about how
Jameis Winston,
the Tallahassee police, and also Florida State University officials really gamed the system there with Jameis Winston when this investigation first started of his sexual assault charge. They were gathering evidence. They were taking affidavits from witnesses before any evidence was even given to prosecutors in this case, before the prosecutors and anybody even found out that there was a case against Jameis Winston. They were getting signed affidavits from the people that were witnesses there. In other words, there's some very unethical goings on complicit in them, not only the police department in Tallahassee, but Florida State administrators that may have really influenced Winston, basically pushing this whole situation beyond the 2013 season, when he, of course, went on to win the Heisman and the national title. It's not the last we've heard about it, and I know he has a disciplinary hearing coming up this week, but hopefully some more will come to light about what the role was of the police officials and also the Florida State administration, because it's not pretty what they did to kind of protect their guy when quite possibly any other person in Tallahassee would have been immediately charged and up on a rape charge. So
hey, you just beat
we'll
me
see what
to
happens
it.
with that.
You beat me to it and set it up. I was going to say, let's see what happens with this disciplinary hearing. I wanted to talk about that on Wednesday. You sent me the story the other day, and I read it, and I'm just like, man, this is definitely more and there's more for sure to come to light here. But whenever you see that the institution involved, themselves in this thing, and everybody had enough questions about the damn thing to begin with anyway, and how fishy everything looked from just different ties in with people that were part of the investigation and ties to the school and all different stuff. And so, yeah, let's talk some more about that for sure coming up here.
Yeah, the interesting thing, too, I mean, even last year, you remember during the football season when it's late 2013 and we find out this is an incident that happened in December of 2012, and people around the country are going, hey, why in the world are we just finding out about this now?
Well, I was amazed by that.
Where has this been? Well, we're finding out where it's been. It's been buried. And I even took the step of drawing the parallel between this and the Penn State Jerry Sandusky situation, and I think it's legitimate when you talk about if university officials were complicit in covering up criminality to protect something integral to their program. And it might be a little bit of a stretch, but both things involved sexual assault, abuse, and both things were facilitated and smoothed over and hidden with the complicity of university officials. So I think that's a close enough thing to at least draw the parallel.
Oh, well, it's a great parallel. Since you went there, I mean, I agree. If it turns out that there is some provable things like that, then I think just like the NCAA reached its hand in, I mean, come on now, that is an organization reaching in and involving and hindering, or you want to use, criminal terms, obstruction of justice, whatever it is. And football, once again, goes above somebody who's been victimized by a crime, somebody who's been, however you want to look at it, man. And I'm with you there. And it's funny you mention it because I'm one of those people like you just brought up when the story first broke last season, and I'm reading it, and I had to do the double read because at first I thought they were talking about two different incidents. I'm like, wait a minute. What is the 2012 incident they're talking about? Then I realized, wait a minute. That is this. Like, how in the world is this like a year-plus old thing? And it's still being hemmed and hauled about and stalled around. But then again, hey, we're from Ohio. We see, look at Steubenville. I've brought that up a couple of times. You look at how, and that's high school football, and how a whole community can be complicit in hiding something and covering something up, and the football coaches can be actively covering things up and then keep their job because the football town mentality, which I've never bought. That's like saying that a group of bank robbers have a bank robbery mentality. No, they're a group of bank robbers. That's what they are. I mean, let's not put a cute little word on it. It's not a football town. It means that football is more important to you and what those high school players do in games that don't mean anything. And I hate to disparage high school football. It's great, but it means nothing. Like, I mean, there's not even tangible financial benefits here, like where you could say there's a financial windfall. This is for the good of kids and for their social abilities and so that parents can be proud of their kids. And you're going to cover up sexual assault? That's a bad atmosphere, and this is the same kind of thing here.
Yeah, you're right. It's just another example of how our love of sports and our fanaticism, literally, about sports skews our priorities all out of whack, and well, all you can say is, at least hopefully, this is not the last we will hear about Florida State and Jameis Winston and this whole case, because it looks like the thing is starting to unravel, and sooner the better.
Yep, and we'll talk about that on Wednesday. We'll look ahead to the Buckeyes. Speaking of, I look, another slate here as we see Mississippi State climb in. You look at a couple of the other top 25 matches, a few more upsets, not any a ton of huge ones like a few weeks ago where you had those handful of top 5, top 10 upsets. But some more here continue to chip away at the undefeated teams, continue to bring everybody back to the pack. OSU's back up to around 13th or so in the polls. By the time this thing's done, like we talked about, if Ohio State is able to maintain serve, they may find themselves right there in the group with everybody all in that one-loss circle before the end of this thing barrels down to the playoffs.
Yeah, you're right, and it looks like in that SEC West, these guys are just going to keep knocking each other off. And I would go on record right now as saying I think it's quite possible that a 2-loss team might make it into this Final Four if they play in the SEC West. And let's face it, that's where the best college football in the country is currently being played. We had 3 matchups this past week, and even Alabama had to struggle to beat Arkansas, and they're certainly in the mix. But it's hard to believe that. Everybody can't come out of this thing with only 1 loss, and you're not going to, if they all have 2 losses, let's say, I don't think you're going to have this Final Four be put together without at least one team from that SEC West being in there. Somebody's going to have to win the SEC championship game, and let's hope, like we said, that the group that makes this decision will, take into account at least that you have to win your own conference to get in. But with that SEC West situation and how they really do have the best teams in the country, it's possible that a team with 2 losses could make it in. I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility at all.
Man, you're right, though, as we continue to see these. Here this week was another top 10 upset. USC knocked off Arizona. And like you said, even Alabama struggled to get that victory. All of them. I mean, all the games, a lot of parity throughout there, the top 25. And you continue to see a few teams each week get knocked down. And I saw, what was the other one I saw? Oh, Marshall. They're in the top 25. Another team climbed their way back into there, got themselves at the bottom of that. But yeah, and I don't know. That'll be funny if we start talking about the 2-loss teams